Good morning. It's just me today. There's a Chinese group that has created drones with artificial intelligence, and they coordinate an activity to search for something. And they coordinate by sending chat messages to each other that are readable using large language models. So this is a way to address quite a few issues, one of which being you can understand how they are communicating with each other so a human can understand what they're doing. And this is part of the related to the work I've talked about before about understandable AI, which is coming, where not only does AI accomplish a task, but you actually can explain what the various parts of it are doing, and therefore you can keep it better under control. Google has a coding assistant called Copilot. They've had it since 2021 in various versions, and they've now announced that there is a new version for corporations that can train on your private code for about $40 a month. There's also that's the enterprise version. There's also a version for $20 a month, and there's a home user version, and there's supposed to be an educational version, but for more than a year, the sign-up system for the educational system has been broken. I tried to sign up for it. I rather suspect they will reject me just like they reject everybody else because the requirements are very strange. They require more than an EDU email address. They require that you upload a document, or excuse me, they require that you submit a paper document like a student ID or a letter on letterhead, but you can't upload it. You have to take a picture of it with your camera, but their app is broken, so the only camera you can use is the front-facing camera to see yourself, and it's very difficult to get a good picture of the document that way. So many people have complained that they get rejected over and over and they can't get in the program. However, they give you the reassuring message that we will respond within an hour, except if we don't do that, we'll respond within a week, whatever that means. So I'm currently somewhere in that time period, expecting to be told that my document isn't good enough. And apparently there is some poor people working at Google or working at Microsoft, watching these requests and rejecting them all for more than a year since the app is broken. And what they say is they can't let you upload a document because that would be insecure. So apparently Microsoft and GitHub cannot figure out how to accept an image upload and maintain acceptable security. And they can't figure out how to use both sides of the camera. So it all makes me wonder if GitHub Copilot is going to be any use, even if I actually manage to get hold of it, which is important to me, both as general information about AI and also because one of my consulting clients asked me for a risk analysis of GitHub Copilot. And in case you're interested, I haven't been able to use it myself, but I did look into the risks of GitHub Copilot, and there are no significant risks if you use the enterprise version because it doesn't leak your company data to the web. The main risk, though, is that it's likely to guide your developers to write insecure code. Tests have shown that 40% of the code you create using GitHub Copilot is insecure. Now, that might not be any worse than the code they're writing without GitHub Copilot. That I'm not sure. But certainly, I would recommend any code generated with the help of Copilot must be put through some kind of vulnerability scanning, like check marks or Invicti, for example, before it goes live. That's probably a good rule for human written code too, though. So I'm not sure it represents any greater risk than human code. That's a little hard to determine. I'd have to know how good your original coders are. Anyway, hopefully they'll let me in someday and I'll be able to play with it and find out about it. There's supposedly a free student version, although from the complaints, I think the students won't be able to successfully sign up for the free student version either, which is a shame because I'd certainly like to get all my students using it if it was in fact available. Anyway, there's a robot that has been designed. It's demonstrated with videos in IEEE Spectrum that picks up boxes and moves them around sort of a factory condition, and it picks them up with chopsticks. Instead of bothering to have hands or anything, it just has two chopsticks. And they say this is, in fact, very versatile. It can pick up two boxes at once. It can pick up boxes of any size. The chopsticks and the motors are strong. It can handle heavy boxes. So that's interesting as you move forward. And the thing I thought was most exciting, and I gave it, is the Harvard AI model that could make COVID the last pandemic. They made a model of a virus and they made a model of how the virus will mutate to predict the most likely mutations, and they claim they ran it on COVID and it worked by feeding in the original COVID sequence, which we had from the very beginning of the pandemic. I think a year before the vaccine came out, we had the sequence. And from that, they were able to predict all the mutations. So that means they could, using this technology, have created a more effective vaccine that would vaccinate you against not only the original strain, but against the likely mutations. So that sounds extremely promising. And perhaps that clickbait title is justified, saying it could make COVID the last pandemic. That would be swell. Google has a traffic light system which tries to change the timing of the light so people don't spend so long waiting in traffic. Now, I know in San Francisco, I hear a lot of discussions. Well, I had a friend who was a cabbie, so I guess I heard about this. This is a well-known thing. There are some streets where they time the lights correctly. So if you're going at the speed limit, they will all turn green. There's other streets that are not timed, so you're constantly stopping and waiting for no good reason. And apparently Google just uses AI to improve this. And they say it can lower the amount, they say the traffic pollution, the air pollution near intersections is 20 times higher than elsewhere because of all the cars idling. And you can actually save a considerable amount of fuel and remove a lot of pollution through this system. So that's interesting. Offhand, I would have assumed it wouldn't matter that much, but maybe it does. And I was very amazed doing a search to find out that there is now a free open source app platform for building Android and iOS apps with .NET and C# called Xamarin, and it appears to have an iOS emulator of sorts. So I'm going to look into that. I teach a mobile device hacking class, but I only cover Android these days because you can't have a free virtual iPhone for the students to practice. And I'll see to what extent this will work as a free virtual iPhone. There's Android emulators like crazy, and but because of licensing, I think there are no free iOS emulators, but maybe this will do. So I'll be looking into that. Anyway, that's it for this one. I'll have another one on Tuesday.